Okay, good morning, everyone. Good morning. Nice to have you here. Welcome to the 13th Annual Heart Forum, sponsored by Norma Melchor Heart and Vascular Institute here at El Camino Health. I'm Josh Schreckengost. I'm the Executive Director of HVI, and I am your co-host for the day. And I'm working along with my friend and partner, Dr. Fred St. Gore. It would be good if I could say your name, Fred. Sorry. Anyway, little nerves. Okay. All right. So we are so glad to have you with us here today. Now, perhaps you have attended this Heart Forum many years. Some of you I recognize. Or this may be your first Heart Forum. But either way, you are in for a treat. Let me tell you. So much work has gone into making this the most practical Heart Forum yet. Okay, so we really are working that way. And we want to thank you for joining us. This year we've doubled our on-site audience, so it's so nice to have the on-site audience. And we are joined live with hundreds of others on our online platform. Over 1,000 people registered for today's event, so we're hoping this will be our largest attendance ever. And we would also like to thank some not famous people, but important people from our board members. We have John Zoglin and Dr. Peter Fong, who are here in attendance with us today. We're so grateful for their support. As you see on the screen there, our theme today for our program is Empowering Hearts for Lifelong Wellness. So our goal today is to empower you. See, at the end of today, we hope that you feel empowered, that you feel informed, that you feel encouraged and motivated to make your life better, and then to help your loved ones to do the same. Kind of that multiplier effect. We hope we start some new things today. Now, all of our expert participants that are going to be on the program, they work in this unique environment, El Camino Health. Community hospitals are not normally known for groundbreaking research or the development of new technologies. But we're in the Silicon Valley, right? So the spirit of innovation and continuous improvement have infused our culture. And the results speak for themselves. There's our welcome page, your host for today. The results speak for themselves. We were just recognized as number 4 in cardiac care in the entire state of California. But we won't get into debating a little bit, but the 3 guys ahead of us, they were all university-affiliated organizations, and we could debate it a little bit. So we feel we're number 1, okay, non-university, just a little disclaimer. But all of this in your neighborhood, right here in Mountain View, California, Los Gatos. And so we are recognized in the state, the entire nation, and look at that on the far right, the entire world. We are recognized as a wonderful hospital. And now this is all because of the fact that we focused on what matters the most to us, and that is to provide the best patient outcomes for you, our patients. That's what drives us. And this is our differentiator. This is what makes us different. And this is our promise to you. So the results of this focus can be seen in our registry performance. So there's all of our, some of our trophies here. But the one we want to focus on is we have 3 stars in cardiac surgery. That's the highest you can have. We've had the Platinum Award for chest pain management 6 years in a row. No one in the Bay Area has that. We were the first to have the transcatheter certification in California. And last year, the American College of Cardiology recognized us as a heart care center of distinction. And so I could go on forever and you guys would be bored. But if you want to get into more details on this, we are pleased to announce today a new release of our outcomes report that goes into more detail on this quality, and it's available now on our website. So the one thing that is clear, though, is that to do all of this takes a team. And so I want to take a few minutes to go behind the scenes a little bit and talk about the team behind all those recognitions, okay? Now, it starts with our excellent physicians, our doctors. They are central to our success. These doctors and our services are supported by these exceptional physician leaders here. Look at that team I have. I'm so proud to work shoulder to shoulder with such skilled and caring, compassionate physician leaders that help lead our services and our doctors. Now, they work closely with my team. I'm really proud of my team, the Heart and Vascular Institute. This team is comprised of advanced practice nurses, which lead our cardiovascular programs, and they are assisted by our clinical data specialists and our admin support. Going into the care directly, we have our amazing cath lab and perioperative teams who perform leading-edge procedures and surgeries. And just a plug for them, the team just got recognized this month in EP Lab Digest. I know that's something you get mailed to you, right? No. But if you want to go search it out, it's a great article on the exceptional team we have there. Now, throughout the entire care continuum, we have our magnet-designated world-class cardiovascular nursing. This makes the huge difference here at El Camino Health. And then following the care in the hospital, we have the superb Wellness Center. And we're going to hear more from Julie, their leader, in today's session. But notice they are celebrating 30 years of since they started, 30 years ago. On the outpatient front, we're also grateful to have our outpatient clinics, the Women's Heart, our Wound Care Center, and our cardiovascular diagnostic teams. Also, we want to recognize our partners from the Palo Alto Medical Foundation, the Advanced Cardiovascular Specialists, and other medical groups and independent cardiologists that help us. The team goes beyond these walls. As we have here, we have our industry innovation partners. These folks are with us today. Hopefully you've been able to visit them. And then we have our community health partners also with us. So together, they're here for the health fair, but together, what a team we have here at El Camino Health. For what purpose? To empower you, okay? That's our goal. So before I hand off to Dr. St. Gore, we have a few housekeeping items. For today's event, we have produced a handbook, and for the online audience, you will see the links on the main screen on the right-hand side. There's a paper clip, and then also note there's an ask a question thing on that. And then during the 20-minute break coming up, we will have a healthy lunch available along with the health fair, and we want to make sure that the online audience doesn't feel left out, and so we've produced a nice video with all of these amazing organizations. So please check that out at the break. So thank you again for coming, and now I am pleased to introduce my co-host, the medical director of the Heart and Vascular Institute, also serving as the vice chair of the Fogarty Innovation Organization, Dr. Fred St. Gore.
So, nice job, Josh. Really well done. So message to self, as I was listening to you.
Yeah.
Don't follow Josh. Those are big shoes to fill. Well done. That's a great introduction for what's going to hopefully be a really fun, really exciting, and really informative day. We are obviously really pleased to offer this annual Heart Education Forum. And I'm also want to thank all the folks online. I understand there are a lot of you out there online, so thank you very much for joining us today. And hopefully you'll stay engaged and we'll make this interesting for you. So I'm curious, Josh had mentioned about people having been here before. Is there anyone here with us last year? Can you raise your hand? Oh my goodness, that's great. Well, that speaks well. More importantly, how many people have been involved with, let's say, maybe 5 of these? Because we've done it now 13 times. Oh, you guys are rock stars. Thank you very much. Well, so hopefully you guys, especially you guys, will appreciate today that we are continuing to innovate and continuing to evolve our program. So hopefully it will be more and more educational. And hopefully you'll appreciate that we're listening to you. We're listening to the feedback. I know you all have these little pieces of paper on your seats, and please give us feedback, not good feedback, give us constructive feedback, because we always want to know how we can do better. So thank you for doing that. And what you'll see and what you've heard today is what we're going to be focusing on is empowering your hearts for your lifelong wellness. So we've created what I think you hopefully will appreciate an interesting event. It's an interesting event, and again, thanks in large part to your feedback, because it's going to be hopefully dynamic and interactive, and you guys will all be involved. So we have one ideal talk sort of to tee up the morning, and then we have a series of panels with basically our rock star physicians and healthcare providers here. And why do panels? Well, we want you guys to be involved. We want you guys to be thinking about what you're hearing and ask questions, be engaged, because that's how you learn, right? You don't need us to just sort of babble at you and talk. I want you guys to be thinking about it and integrating in, and most importantly then, thinking about how each and every one of you can honestly, seriously take the information and empower yourself for wellness. So we're going to be talking a lot about, risk factors for heart disease, things that we can do to engage in our prevention, right? And here's a very interesting concept, and that is, in this day and age, 2024, we know so much about the pathophysiology of cardiovascular disease and all the various components that are involved in the progression of the disease, in the development and the progression, that it's possible, and I propose this, it's possible that it's optional. And what I mean by that, if you truly understand what your risk factors are, and if you take a very active, a very dynamic engagement in modifying those risk factors, you shouldn't die of heart disease. You shouldn't certainly die of cardiovascular heart disease. And that's what I want you all to think about this morning. That's what I want you all to learn about and come away hopefully feeling much more empowered to be actively engaged in that whole process. So there's actually no one sort of more ideal, more well-positioned to tee up this conversation than Dr. Ann Friedlander, who is the Assistant Director of the Stanford Lifestyle Medicine Program. So she's a long-term adjunct professor at Stanford in the Human Biology program. And she has a really celebrated, really prolific career, both in teaching and doing scientific research. Prior to her present position, she was the director of the mobility division at the Stanford Center for Longevity. So suffice it to say, you can see there's a little theme here. She's a world-renowned expert in mobility and longevity. Key things to think about. And something tells me she's going to give us some very important tips that we can integrate into our day-to-day routine and also share with our communities to really help our overall holistic health and wellness. So that said, this is not a passive process for you today. You have work to do. And in fact, I might even give you a test at the end of the day. So be ready. You're going to hear a lot of information. Dr. Friedlander's tips, please process, please think about. And then there's going to be a lot of discussion about how you can be empowered to make your cardiovascular, your overall wellness better. So please process this, and I promise most of you will probably pass the test at the end. It's a little touch and go, but no. And I know we're kind of spread out here, but feel engaged, and we'll talk more about that in a bit. But I am very happy, very excited to introduce Dr. Ann Friedlander as our keynote speaker.
Thank you, Dr. St. Gore, for that lovely introduction. It is a pleasure to be here with all of you, talking about what I'm passionate about, which is physical activity and longevity. So using physical activity to enhance your health and wellness throughout your lifespan. And I'm going to need a clicker. So there are a lot of different things that we could talk about today, but I'm going to focus on giving you some science that will lead to 3 actionable tips about physical activity that you can start using today in your life. And I mean actually today in this conference. So hopefully it'll be useful for you. I know I have people with a lot of different backgrounds, a lot of different ages, but hopefully this will apply to all of you. So 85 years old can look very different. Right? It can look like this gentleman here who's in a nursing home dependent on others for his activities of daily living. Or it could look like Alma Kent here, pictured at age 85 running the London Marathon. And if I were to ask you who you'd like to be like at 85 or beyond, clearly you'd pick Alma out there doing her thing, running her marathon. And there are things in life that are beyond your control, injuries, genetics that will send you on one direction or the other on these 2 trajectories. But there are also a lot of things that you can do in your everyday life to help affect that trajectory more towards Alma. And we call that healthy aging at 85 and beyond. Some of you may be over age 85. You can do this stuff at any age to help that trajectory of aging, to make yourself healthier. And there are a lot of things you'll hear about during the day. We, in this talk, will be focusing on physical activity because I am an exercise physiologist, so that's my passion. So when you look at the literature on aging, it can be a little grim, right? So you look at the scientific studies and they show that endurance goes down and strength goes down and function goes down and physical activity falls. You have some genetics and some energy expenditure issues, and that increases the risk for all of these diseases, cardiovascular disease, type 2 diabetes, get a fall in cognitive function. You just look at that, you think, oh no. But I look at that with a great deal of optimism because right in the center of that figure is physical activity. So when you switch that one arrow, that arrow up, now all the other arrows can change. Your endurance doesn't fall as much, your strength doesn't fall as much, your function, right? So you have this powerful thing in the center of your physiology that can impact so many things in your body related to heart health and general wellness. Right? So lots of power in your control. So to start off, I want you to think like an exercise physiologist. So an exercise physiologist is someone who studies the benefits of exercise. And if you are willing and able, I'll have everyone stand up in their chair. If you want to stay in your chair, that's fine. And I'm going to ask you to move as much as you'd like to try and get your heart rate up right in front of your chair for about 20 seconds. And as you're doing that, feel what's happening in your body. So if you want to stay in your chair, you can move your arms, but a little walking in place. You can do jumping jacks if you're really excited. A few more minutes, keep going. This is your chance to move around, get that blood flow to your brain. Oh, people are into it. All right, keep going, keep going. A few more seconds. All right, a little bit more vigorous. Come on, this is your last chance. All right, I see some jumping people. Good, good, good. All right, excellent. Okay, you can sit down. So just, what were some of the things that you felt changing in your body when you were doing that? Heart rate's up. Breathing up. Got warmer. Anything else? Faster breathing. Feeling better and happy. Yes, thank you. Smiles, smiles all around, right? It's fun to exercise with other people. So we have been in our bodies a long time. Right? We know what changes when we have to walk quickly to get a bus or go up the stairs, right? And you listed some of these things. You're familiar with this. Heart rate, blood flow, breathing, blood pressure. All these things go up when you start exercising. But there's this whole other world out there behind the scenes in your body. Hormones are being released. There's neurological signaling. There's different fuel usages. Your brain is functioning differently. So all of these powerful things are the start of this adaptive process that will make you stronger the next time you do it. So your body's an amazing thing. It's trying to make your life easier by adapting to whatever it is that's going on. And if you put all those adaptive processes together, you have this amazing impact through your body, right? You've heard exercise is good for you. Everybody knows that. But all of these things are impacted in the body. You know, number one on the list, cardiovascular fitness, right? We're here to talk about heart health, reduction in cardiovascular disease, but all the way down into your microbiome and type 2 diabetes risk falls. And then your brain, it's impacting your brain, right? Mood, memory, depression, self-esteem, social connection, even Parkinson's and Alzheimer's disease are impacted by regular physical movement. And then you go deeper, down into the cells, right? So there are these 12 hallmarks of aging associated with the cells. And people are trying to develop drug targets to target this hallmark and this hallmark and everything. But the beauty is physical activity impacts all of them in a positive way. So it's a powerful, powerful medicine. And it's part of our history, right? So we were born to run, according to Daniel Lieberman at Harvard, who's a paleoanthropologist. And we used to be the ultimate endurance athletes. So we would run down our prey and they'd keel over from heat stroke and then we'd bonk them on the head and that was dinner, right? So that persistence hunt, right? So we had this capacity. Interestingly, he's since changed his view on that. He says, yeah, we were born to run, but we are actually born to survive by expending as little energy as possible, right? So you'd never see a hunter-gatherer go out and run, go for a jog, right? Because that would just be energy that would have to be replaced by gathering more food. So it was integrated into our lives, and in this modern world, it becomes challenging. It's fine when you have to go out and catch your food, or build your shelter, or take care of your kids manually, and so. We now live in a world where food is available all the time, 24/7, very energy-dense, calorically rich foods at our fingertips all the time. And we have engineered physical activity out of our lives. So we have screen times, we go up escalators, we have washing machines, we're in the car a lot. We don't even go shopping anymore, right? To the malls, we have Amazon deliver packages, which by the way, I love. But each one of these things has engineered a little bit of movement out of our lives throughout the day. And it's become very problematic for our health in that regard. So now we compensate with this modern construct called exercise, right? So we go to gyms, we have Peloton machines, we use electricity in order to get our exercise. And I used to go to the gym with a friend, and this is pre-COVID, but we would go drive around and around. She would drive around and around to get a parking place very close to the gym so she could get out and walk on the treadmill. And I was like, that doesn't really seem to make sense. Why don't you park farther away and then walk on the treadmill for a little less time? But the thing is that's weird about it is I kind of get it, right? We have our life and we have our exercise time, and we have completely separated those apart, and our health and the planet would be a lot better if we started to integrate those things back together. So now we have guidelines for physical activity because we're not getting into our lives. And many of you may be familiar with some form of these. They've been around for a while. Just very briefly paraphrasing, aerobic activity, so that's what gets the heart rate up, sort of continuous movement, at least 150 to 300 minutes of moderate intensity exercise per week. The more intense it is, the exercise, the less you need. And it can be broken up into smaller sessions, so it doesn't have to be all at once, and we'll get into that a little bit more at the end. And then resistance exercise, so sometimes called weightlifting, resistance exercise, strengthens the muscles, all muscle groups 2 to 3 times per week, and then avoid sitting as much as possible. Yeah, okay. It's hard to do sometimes. So the problem is that not many people meet these guidelines. So let's take these exercise parts, and there's sort of 3 general categories. There's the aerobic activities, the resistance training, and the lifestyle activities, and we're going to touch on each of these. So aerobic activities, I think you kind of get the gist of. It leads to cardiovascular fitness and aerobic capacity. So we'll start with that. Why do we care about this? Because it allows us to do more things, right? So walking, hiking, playing with our grandkids, it makes us feel better if we have good cardiovascular health and capacity, reduce the risk for many diseases like cardiovascular disease, keeps us independent, and reduces the risk of all-cause mortality or death by any cause, right? So incorporating this into your life and keeping your aerobic capacity up is important. And there's a lot of different things that qualify for aerobic activity. Hiking, biking, swimming, even playing tennis, things like that. And kind of tip number one, and I'll get back to this, is to get out of your comfort zone with this. So whatever that means for you. So maybe you're walking around the block, or you're hiking whatever you're doing. You can go a little bit slow on one side and then just push it on one side of the block, and then slower, and then push it, so that you're just trying to keep that maximum capacity up. So get out of your comfort zone. Okay, muscular fitness. This is the one that many people kind of forget about, especially as we age. It gets harder and harder to maintain our muscle mass as we age, and there are a lot of physiologic reasons for that. But that means we have to be more intentional about doing it. Because if we lose our muscle mass, we lose our independence, right? It's what allows us to get upstairs and carry things and get off the toilet and a variety of other things. So don't forget about me. It decreases the risk for a variety of diseases, including cardiovascular disease, if you're keeping that muscle up, so you're doing strength training and resistance training. It increases longevity, so decreased mortality, and better functional capacity, and many other benefits. And I think one of the reasons why people don't do it very often is that when they think of resistance training or strength training, they think of this. I'm going to pump you up, right? Our ex-governor, Arnold, looking huge. I'll be back, the Terminator. So pumping iron doesn't have to be like this. Well, pumping iron kind of does, but strength training doesn't necessarily have to be like that. So it can be this. It can be lifting lighter weights at home. It can be doing body weight exercises, squats, lunges, things like that. So just using your body resistance. Or using whatever you have at home. So milk jugs, they can be heavy, doing curls with milk jugs. So whatever it is that's allowing you to push against some resistance that you wouldn't normally do will increase your muscle strength or maintain your muscle strength. And that's what we should be focusing on as we age. And I like this particular study. I don't have a lot of studies in here, but this one because it has the oldest mean age that I could find. And it shows that you can build muscle at any age. So this was a study that looked at frail elderly men and women in a long-term care facility. The mean age was 90. They did 8 weeks of high-intensity resistance training, so high intensity for them. So whatever was hard, they were out of their comfort zone, lifting and doing squats and things like that. And it increased their quadricep muscle strength by 174%. And their mid-thigh muscle area by 9%. So their muscles were actually getting bigger. It increased gait speed, stair climbing power, balance, and there was an increase in spontaneous activity. So if you get people a little bit stronger, they develop a little more confidence, right? They're less likely to fall, they're more likely to do things, and you get this spiraling up of physical activity. And some of that starts with building that strength, especially in the lower legs, right? The same, or the opposite side of that, if you have a fall and you maybe injure yourself or you're in the hospital, you lose that confidence, there can be a spiraling down. So increasing your strength, reducing your fall risk can make sure that that spiral in your life is up, or at least constant, and not down. And the bottom line is that you're never too old to benefit from exercise, and nothing so far is as effective at reversing muscle loss as resistance training. So, resistance training tips. These are the tips that, or this is one of the tips that Dr. St. Gore is going to quiz you on, apparently later. Whew, scary. Get out of your comfort zone. So this applies both to the aerobic exercise that we were talking about and this resistance training. So pushing something a little bit heavier than you're normally doing. It doesn't have to be complicated. You don't have to worry about sets and reps and percentages of maximum that's often associated with this. It's just doing some type of activity that forces your muscles to work a little harder. If you can throw in some heavier resistance at some point, either heavier weights or push-ups, you go from your knees to your feet or whatever it is, then that will help you sort of maintain that strength. It not only conditions the muscles, but there's some brain activity in terms of firing of the muscles that's very helpful as well. And the harder you work, the more effective it is. Okay? All right, the last category, lifestyle activity. So can these activities really make a difference? And how much activity do you really need for health benefits? So we're talking here about, walking in the park, climbing stairs, carrying your groceries, doing chores around the house, gardening. Well, there was a very interesting analysis by the Health and Human Services, the Department of Health and Human Services in 2018, that really took a lot of the data on physical activity and all-cause mortality, so again, dying from any cause, and plotted it together as sort of an average. So this is a conglomeration of many, many studies. And it's a very interesting shape. Don't have a pointer that can work on all screens, but you have the hazard ratio of mortality, so risk of all-cause death, and then the leisure time physical activity, so the amount of exercise increasing as you go from left to right. And you can see in the middle there at 150 to 300 minutes, so those are the guidelines, and you're on the flat part of the curve in terms of benefit, so that's optimal if you can do that, that's great. But look how steep that curve is on the low end. Right? So when you go from no physical activity to just a little physical activity, you can drop your all-cause mortality by 20%. And so something at that point would be something like walking briskly at 3 miles per hour, 10 to 12 minutes a day. So if you're doing nothing and you add that in, you drop your all-cause mortality by 20%. That's pretty powerful. The next dot might be heavy gardening work for 1 hour per week. Below that, you have swimming freestyle for 1 hour per week. So these things can really help you be healthier if you integrate them into your life. And we know that these lifestyle activities are important because there's this concept of blue zones. And I know that you're going to get more on this in the next talk, so I'm not going to belabor this. But basically, blue zones are areas around the world where people are longer lived, and scientists have gone in and tried to figure out what they have in common, like what are the elements that make these people live longer. And I'm not going to go into all of the things they found. They've found sort of 9 components that are consistent across these spaces. But number 1, since I'm an exercise physiologist, move naturally. So make physical activity an unavoidable part of your environment. And here's a quote from the paper. The world's longest lived people do not pump iron, run marathons, or join gyms. Instead, they live in environments that constantly nudge them into moving without thinking about it. They grow gardens and do not have mechanical conveniences for house and yard work. Right? So this is how we should be living our lives if possible. So lifestyle activity 2, little things throughout your day can make a difference in your health and longevity. And even if you are exercising regularly, you still can benefit from these lifestyle activities and movement. So first of all, awesome, keep it up. Want to be exercising regularly. But you can't rest on your laurels. So if you are a high school athlete or something, what you're doing now is more important than what you were doing then, right? So moving now is more important. But even within a day, you shouldn't rest on your laurels. So there's this interaction between sitting and physical activity that looks something like this, also from Department of Health and Human Services. So on the bottom axis is moderate to vigorous activity, and then we have daily sitting time on the vertical axis. And you can see that if you're about in the middle, you're meeting those guidelines, so you're kind of at the branch between green and yellow on the bottom. But then you sit the rest of the day, if your eyes drift up that graph, you start to get into the yellow, maybe a little bit of orange. So you are negating or minimizing the benefit that you're getting from that great physical activity that you're doing. So even if you're running in the morning or something, you should be considering moving throughout the day as well. And so less sitting is good, but simply interrupting sitting, so 2 minutes every 30 minutes or 5 minutes every hour, has been shown to improve markers of health, so reduce the risk factors. And so you shouldn't be considering that. And that brings us to the next one, exercise snack. So this is not eating a power bar before you exercise. This is actually integrating exercise into your day as little kind of snackies. And the traditional paradigm is that you get up and you do your exercise in the morning, and then you go about your day, and you're at the front of the computer, and you're watching Netflix in the evening, whatever it is, and you've met your guidelines, but you haven't interrupted your sitting. So these exercise snacks, you interject throughout the day, 2 to 5 minutes, interrupting your sitting, and you can still get to your 10 to 25 minutes of moderate, vigorous physical activity. And if you can combine those, it's even better. So if you can do that 25 minutes in the morning and then the exercise snacks, that's great. But even the exercise snacks will help you. And so tip number 3 is to try these exercise snacks. And these can be anything. They can be taking the stairs, in between meetings, or it can be, doing some lunges or some squats or some desk push-ups, jumping jacks, whatever you want to do, just moving, trying to get that heart rate up. And if you put a little resistance into it, like those desk push-ups, then you're hitting the resistance exercise too. And so this is emerging as a really powerful way to incentivize people to exercise and get that in throughout the day, and it feels great. So in this session, you have about 3 minutes between each panel. I would suggest that is a great time to stand up in your seat. Don't disturb other people. You can just move. You can do whatever you want, and integrate that movement. And that will make you healthier when you leave today than you would be if you did not do that between the sessions. Super easy way to be healthier. So, summary of the tips. You can write this down for the quiz. 1, get out of your comfort zone, both aerobically and for resistance exercise. Lifestyle activities can improve your health, and consider doing some exercise snacks throughout your day. You can start today. And remember, a convenient life is not necessarily a healthy life. So I have, hopefully, 5 minutes for questions. And so, do you have any questions about that material? One additional thing, I work at Stanford Lifestyle Medicine, and we have a website that has pillars about health. You can see the pillars there, and we have a newsletter. If you want to sign up for the newsletter, you can get that on the website, and we talk about these types of issues. So just a little plug. What's happening?
Is this on? So if you have questions,
There's
first
questions
and
over here.
foremost, Dr. Friedlander, that was awesome.
Thank you.
Lots of tips to work with. And I think you guys can all see why Dr. Friedlander is totally adored by her Stanford students and regularly wins teaching awards, because she brings what she knows and understands to life and brings it to a level that we can all learn and appreciate from.
Thank you.
Thank you. And questions, but before you ask questions, and your hand is up, hold your hand up, that's good. No, seriously, I was told that make sure that you use the mic, because this is recorded, or this is, people are watching online, and so we really appreciate it. And make sure also your questions today for Dr. Friedlander, as well as for the panels, and we hope we have a lot of questions. Make sure your questions are ideally general. Don't ask about, your husband who takes 2 antihypertensive, this, that, and should he raise his hypertensive. Keep them general and think about questions which you think the whole audience here would enjoy. And not putting pressure on you, but thank you very much. First question.
Thanks, and for your excellent talk. My question is that, do we need to go to gym, or if we walk when you are a senior is enough?
Yes, you do not need to go to the gym. So there are many other ways that you can exercise. You can walk, and if you want to get some, resistance in your legs, then walk upstairs. Do something like that. So a lot of people don't like to go to the gym. I don't even, frankly, go to the gym anymore. But I, work out at home and do a variety of activities. So anything that works for you. I mean, the best exercise for you is going to be the one that you do, right? The one that you can stick with. And that has a lot to do with joy. Do you enjoy doing it? Are you doing it with people you care about? Can you integrate it into your life? So if you try and go to the gym and you hate it and you never go, that is not helpful for you. So finding what you like and doing it is enough. Great question.
Very good general question. Thank you.
One moment, please.
The 7 lifestyle pillars. Will you please explain restorative sleep and cognitive enhancement? I'm not clear about those 2.
So this is a little less relevant for this talk, but yeah, we have 7 lifestyle pillars in Stanford Lifestyle Medicine, and restorative sleep is just how powerful that can be to make sure you're getting regular and enough sleep on your whole physiology. And cognitive enhancement are things that you can do, like exercise, so there's a lot of overlap in these pillars that can enhance your cognitive function.
One quick question. How many hours of sleep do you think important?
So I wouldn't, let's not push you on the gun on this, because we're going to be talking next, and we actually have one of the world's experts in sleep coming out on our next panel, but what's your opinion? How many hours do you sleep?
So it varies from person to person, so I'll let the expert address that.
Thanks, Dr. Mastery.
We got a Q&A online.
Oh, great. Oh,
Okay.
please.
How does increasing your heart rate help? And even patients with heart disease, is it risky for them to increase their heart rate? And is it still useful even if you don't increase your heart rate while you are exercising?
So increasing your heart rate really sort of strengthens the heart, right? So you get it used to, you're conditioning it to be elevated, and so there's this theory in science and physiology about called hormesis, which is that you stress things a little bit in a controlled environment and it makes it stronger for the next time. So by increasing your heart rate, increasing that circulation, you are strengthening the heart. And there's all sorts of other things that happen when you exercise and your heart rate goes up. There are these, your muscles act as sort of pharmacies, and they release these compounds that go throughout the body and target all these different organs, the brain, the heart, the muscles, things like that, and improve their health. So drop systemic inflammation, which is a risk factor for a lot of diseases. So it is conditioning yourself to be able to sustain the stresses of life. And it is healthy to exercise, even if you have heart disease. And we have a cardiologist right here who might want to address that issue. But even after, my understanding is that right after a cardiac event, you try and get people moving as much as possible. So the worst thing you can do is just stop moving altogether, because that just perpetuates the problem that exists already.
Good answer.
Thank you.
Better. I'm not sure I can do better, but the one thing we always talk about, especially with people who have underlying heart disease, is moderation. Don't go overboard. The other thing that's really important is listen to your body. If your body is sending you signals that this really is not good, whether it be extreme shortness of breath or pressure in your chest, don't deny that. So I think that's probably the most important thing is be aware, but it always is good to just push it a little bit if you can, because hormesis, as you described, so
Yeah.
thank you.
And if you're not just pushing a little bit, then that decline is greater, right? So you're falling off, your maximum capacity is falling off more, and then everything you do in your daily life will feel harder as that maximum starts to fall. So just pushing it a little bit, don't go crazy, check with your cardiologist, but getting out of that comfort zone is very important. I think we have time for one more question. Yes?
Thank you for waiting for the mic.
This connection is connected with the previous question. My understanding is that what I have learned from you people is that as you age, the heart shrinks. If we do exercise, it will keep us with the big heart, or at least the normal heart. So how we can keep our heart at least in the normal shape, until we die?
That is so true, and if I had more time here, I might have given you some data and illustrations of how that's actually happening. But you're absolutely right. Your heart function does fall off over time, and for example, your max heart rate, right? You heard maybe that expression, your max heart rate is 220 minus your age, very general, and there's variability around that. But that changes, and so you want to work on the other part, which is to keep your heart vibrant and elastic and larger and pumping more blood per beat, and exercise, aerobic exercise, will do that for you. And so your aerobic capacity will not fall off as much as you continue to exercise throughout your life. So thank you for that.
Yeah, a good question. I think Dr. Friedlander would point out that there is an inevitable trajectory of aging and the effects. But what you can all do, and you're empowered to do, is you can change that trajectory by being really active. So, Dr. Friedlander, again, thank you very much.
You're very
Very
welcome.
helpful. Lots of tips. There's a test later. Thank you very much. Take care.